For a long time, Earth lived in peace. People went about their daily lives, busy with their jobs, their families, their dreams, and their small struggles. The world had enough of its own problems: politics, money, technology, and survival. Nobody really thought that something far beyond the stars was watching, planning, or fighting battles that could one day touch this tiny blue planet. But some people always looked at the sky a little differently. Scientists, astronomers, and those who loved to explore space often stayed awake at night, listening to the sounds of the universe. They built machines to read signals from distant galaxies, hoping to find proof that humans weren't alone. Most of the time, they heard only silence. Just the hum of space, the background noise of stars being born and dying light years away. Then, years ago, something strange started happening. Some deep space observatories began receiving faint, repeating signals. At first, they looked like simple radio waves, but soon patterns started to appear. Mathematical sequences too perfect to be random. Scientists didn't announce it publicly. They didn't want chaos. They studied quietly, trying to understand what the signals meant. It turned out that those weren't just random noises. They were messages. Not from one civilization, but two. And both were saying the same thing: war. The signals told stories of a battle happening across galaxies, a war that had been going on for centuries. Two powerful alien civilizations fighting for control over entire star systems. Earth was too far, too small, and too young to be part of that fight, and so humanity decided to stay out of it. Governments around the world came together secretly. They agreed not to respond, not to get involved. Earth would remain neutral, a silent observer. It was the safest thing to do. Humanity had barely reached the moon. How could they survive a war that had destroyed planets? So life went on. People still woke up, went to work, and watched movies. Kids still played in the streets. The world still argued over politics, and dreams still revolved around small human hopes. Building homes, falling in love, earning money, finding meaning. But the universe had other plans. One night, an astronomer sitting at a remote observatory in the Pacific noticed something unusual. A faint pulse of light that didn't match any known star or satellite. He adjusted his telescope, thinking it might be a glitch. But the light flashed again, rhythmic, steady, deliberate. It was a signal. He recorded it and sent the data to other observatories. Within hours, they confirmed the same thing. The signal wasn't random. It was trying to say something. A message was decoded after days of sleepless work. 3 words stood out, repeated over and over again. Sanctuary. Endangered. Prepare. At first, no one knew what to make of it. Sanctuary. Endangered. Prepare for what? Some scientists believed it was a warning. Others thought it was a cry for help. A few dismissed it entirely, calling it cosmic coincidence. But the message kept coming, stronger each time from the same spot in space. Soon, ordinary people started noticing things too. Amateur skywatchers posted videos online of faint glowing trails moving across the night sky. They weren't meteors, they moved too slowly. They weren't airplanes, they made no sound. People joked about UFOs, but the jokes didn't last long. Governments stayed silent, but behind closed doors, satellites began picking up unusual energy readings just outside Earth's orbit. It was as if something large, something alive, was moving toward the planet. Weeks passed and small things began to change. Radio signals became distorted. GPS systems occasionally glitched. Air traffic control networks around the world started reporting strange static interference, as though something invisible was pressing against Earth's atmosphere. Still, there was no panic. People had grown used to unusual news. They thought it was just another technical problem. Even the scientists who noticed the truth couldn't quite believe it. Then one morning, just before dawn, a deep, low sound echoed across parts of the Pacific Ocean, like thunder, but coming from the sky. Satellites above the region suddenly went offline. Entire communication systems failed for hours. Pilots reported strange auroras dancing over the horizon, glowing with colors no one had ever seen before: green, blue, even gold. When power finally returned, people rushed to share photos and videos. The images were haunting, long streaks of light descending from the upper atmosphere, moving like living streams. It looked beautiful, almost peaceful, but something about it felt wrong. By the time experts confirmed it, it was too late to pretend nothing was happening. Several somethings, had entered Earth's orbit. They weren't meteors or satellites. They were ships, massive, silent, and unlike anything human hands could build. The world reacted with disbelief. Some people thought it was a hoax. Others ran to their windows hoping to see proof with their own eyes. When the truth spread, panic finally began to ripple through the streets. Governments issued emergency statements asking people to stay calm. News channels filled the air with endless debates. Was this the end or a new beginning? For a few tense days, the ships didn't move. They stayed quietly in the edge of the atmosphere, almost as if they were watching. No attacks, no messages, no contact. Just silence. Scientists tried sending signals to them, but nothing came back. Every attempt ended in static. Some said maybe they couldn't understand us. Others whispered that maybe they didn't care to. It was only later that the truth began to surface. The energy readings, the signals, the warning, it all started to make sense. The two alien civilizations that had been at war for centuries had brought their conflict here. One side was chasing the other, and Earth was caught in between. Humanity's neutrality no longer mattered. One of the alien fleets had chosen to hide near Earth, using the planet's unique atmosphere to shield themselves from detection. The other side had followed, determined to wipe them out completely, and so, Earth's quiet skies had suddenly become the front line of a war no one had asked to join. People didn't fully understand the scale of it yet. All they saw were strange lights, broken communications, and headlines filled with fear. But for those who worked in government, in science, in space monitoring agencies, there was no confusion left. They knew what was happening. The Galactic War had finally arrived. Not with explosions or invasions, but with silence, the kind that comes before a storm. In small towns and big cities, people gathered outside at night, staring up at the stars that suddenly felt closer than ever. The moon seemed dimmer, the air heavier. Everyone could sense that something had changed. A mother held her child tighter, telling him it was just another strange space story that would soon pass. A man sitting alone in his car listened to the radio static, wondering if he'd ever see a normal sunrise again. Soldiers across the world received quiet orders they couldn't talk about. And somewhere deep in an underground lab, a group of scientists played the alien message one more time. Sanctuary. Endangered. Prepare. It was then they realized the meaning. Earth was the sanctuary. Humanity wasn't the target. It was the shelter someone was trying to protect. But if the hunters found their prey here, the whole planet would burn with them, and while most of the world went to sleep that night not knowing what was coming, a handful of people stayed awake watching the skies, waiting for the next signal, the next sound, the next moment that would change human history forever. And far beyond Earth, hidden in the endless dark, ships moved like shadows, chasing, fleeing, preparing for what would come next. Earth had always believed it was alone. But now it was part of something far bigger, something ancient, something unstoppable. The planet that once tried to stay out of every galactic conflict was now standing on the edge of one. No one knew it yet, but life on Earth would never be the same again. Days passed after the strange lights appeared in the sky, and the whole world had one question. What was really out there? The internet was flooded with shaky videos and blurry photos. Some showed bright glowing shapes in the clouds, while others captured faint outlines of huge objects hanging still in the sky. Nobody knew what to believe. The news tried to calm people down, calling it a natural event, but deep inside, everyone knew it was something more. The message, sanctuary, endangered, prepare, kept replaying in the minds of those who had heard it. Governments still refused to share details, but scientists around the world were restless. They were picking up the same pattern again, this time stronger, clearer, as if whoever was sending it was trying harder to be heard. One night, an observatory in South America managed to catch a full sequence of the signal. The team there stayed up all night, recording, decoding, comparing it with previous data. The next morning, their report quietly reached several space agencies around the world. The translation wasn't complete, but one part stood out. It said, "They found us. We are coming to you." That single line changed everything. In secret, world leaders met through encrypted video calls. Some wanted to attack immediately, thinking the aliens might bring danger. Others believed the best option was to stay quiet, to not provoke them. And then there were a few who thought maybe, just maybe, the aliens weren't coming to harm anyone at all. But the people on the streets didn't know about any of this. To them, it felt like waiting for a storm you could see but not understand. Nights were no longer peaceful. The sky had become something everyone feared to look at for too long. In one small town, children who used to lie on rooftops and count stars stopped doing it. Their parents told them to stay inside. A man who ran a small cafe by the beach kept his telescope locked away, saying he didn't want to see whatever's coming next. Farmers stopped working late in the fields. Truck drivers who used to cross long highways at night started waiting until sunrise. But still, people couldn't look away for long. Curiosity has always been stronger than fear. Then came the day that changed everything. At 4:12 in the morning, a station on the coast of Japan recorded a strange burst of energy. It wasn't a blast. It was more like a ripple in the air. It spread fast, circling the planet within minutes. For the first time, everyone on Earth felt it at once. Lights flickered, radios cut out, and for a few seconds every phone and television in the world went blank. When the screens came back, the same message flashed everywhere, not from any channel or company, but as if the entire global network had been hijacked. 3 simple words appeared again, glowing white on black. "We are coming." It lasted only 10 seconds, and then everything went back to normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. That was when the first sighting happened. A cargo ship traveling across the Atlantic sent out a distress signal. The crew reported seeing a large, shimmering object rising from the ocean, hovering for several minutes, then disappearing into the clouds. They said it wasn't metal. It looked alive, like a creature made of light. For the next few days, similar reports came from different parts of the world. Objects moving through water, glowing shapes flying silently above mountains, shadows crossing the moon. It was no longer just a rumor. The aliens had arrived, and yet they didn't attack. They didn't speak. They simply watched. The world tried to respond. Satellites sent signals toward the hovering crafts, but there was no reply. Fighter jets were sent to observe, but every time they got too close, their instruments shut down, and the pilots were forced to turn back. Whatever these beings were, they had technology far beyond anything humans could imagine. Despite all this, life continued, in a strange, nervous way. People still went to work, though conversations always turned back to the same topic, the ships. Children drew pictures of glowing lights at school. News anchors spoke with careful voices, never admitting fear but never hiding it either. Then, unexpectedly, something happened that no one was prepared for. At a research base near Antarctica, a group of scientists working on ice core samples noticed something buried deep under the frozen surface. At first, they thought it was an old meteorite. But when they sent a drone to take a closer look, the camera showed something shocking. A smooth, metallic structure half buried in the ice, with faint lights pulsing from within. Within hours, the entire area was locked down. Teams from several countries arrived, and satellites redirected their attention to that part of the continent. What they found confirmed everyone's worst fears and biggest questions. The object wasn't new. It had been there for centuries, maybe longer. It was alien, and it was connected to the very same signals Earth had been receiving. The scientists studying it discovered faint symbols glowing across its surface, the same kind found in the mysterious messages. It wasn't a ship. It was a beacon, and it was waking up. While the world's attention turned to Antarctica, something else began happening in the skies above the northern hemisphere. Several of the hovering crafts that had remained still for weeks started to move. Not slowly this time, but with purpose. They were searching for something, or someone. A chilling theory began to spread among scientists. Maybe one group of aliens had been living among humans long before this war reached Earth. Maybe the signals weren't just warnings. They were messages meant for those already here. The idea sounded impossible at first, but deep within government archives, classified reports began to surface. Strange genetic findings, unexplained recoveries from old crash sites, individuals who had vanished decades ago without explanation. All these pieces started to fit together. It was becoming clear that the Galactic War wasn't simply arriving at Earth's doorstep. It had already touched it long ago, and the side that lost the war had been hiding here all along. The tension grew thicker each day. People began to notice strange behavior in others. Someone's neighbor would suddenly disappear. A quiet co-worker would stop showing up to work. Rumors spread that some humans weren't really human, that they were part of the alien refugees, blending in for survival. But no one could prove anything. Governments kept denying the idea publicly, but secretly, they knew. The hidden refugees had made Earth their home for years, maybe generations. And now, the enemies that chased them had found them here. Earth was no longer just an innocent bystander. It had become a hiding place in someone else's war. Still, there was no open conflict. The alien ships remained in orbit, watching. Some floated above oceans, others near mountain ranges, motionless and silent. The people of Earth were waiting for the first move, praying it wouldn't come. But one evening, as the sun set over the western horizon, the skies changed again. All across the world, the alien ships began to glow. Not a bright light, but a deep, soft blue, like a heartbeat pulsing through the clouds. Every radar and satellite picked up the same signal, steady, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Then came the transmission. It wasn't in words, but in sound. Soft tones, layered with patterns no human language could describe. Some scientists believed it was an attempt at communication. Others thought it was a warning. A few, the ones who had studied the ancient beacon in Antarctica, believed it was a message to the ones hiding among humans. For the next hour, the world stood still. No wars, no noise, no distractions, just that sound filling the air, reaching every corner of the planet. And then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The ships dimmed. The sky turned quiet again. But silence never lasts long. The next morning, several governments reported strange energy readings from deep within the oceans. Something enormous was moving below the surface, faster than any submarine. Whatever it was heading toward the same area where one of the alien crafts hovered. And then, for the first time, Earth saw two alien vessels face each other in the sky. One was glowing faint blue, the other burning with a deep, fiery orange. They didn't fight, not yet, but the air around them shimmered, charged with a power no one had ever seen before. People on the ground watched in awe, recording with their phones, unaware that they were witnessing the beginning of something that would soon pull humanity into its center. For decades, Earth had tried to stay neutral, to stay safe. But now, as the two forces hovered above the planet, their war had finally reached the doorstep of humanity. The silence was gone. The waiting was over. Earth's choice would come soon, and it would change everything forever. The world had changed overnight. After the two alien ships appeared face to face in Earth's sky, nobody could pretend life was normal anymore. Every news channel showed the same footage. Two glowing crafts floating high above the clouds, silent but full of power. One shone with a cold blue light, the other with a deep orange glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. They weren't moving, but everyone could feel the tension, like the quiet just before a thunderstorm. People gathered in the streets, on rooftops, and near coastlines, staring up in silence. For the first time in history, the entire planet was watching the same thing, breathing the same nervous air. There were no more jokes about UFOs, no more doubts. The truth was right there, hanging above their heads. Governments around the world scrambled for answers. Some leaders ordered their armies to stay ready but not attack. Others tried sending peaceful messages toward the ships. Scientists everywhere were working non-stop, trying to decode whatever signals were coming from space. But the alien crafts ignored everything. They didn't attack and they didn't respond. They just waited, and that was the scariest part, the waiting. Days turned into nights and nights into days. People began to lose sleep, wondering what would happen next. Some said maybe the aliens were negotiating with each other. Others believed they were planning something bigger. The truth was, no one really knew. Then something strange began to happen on Earth itself. All over the world, people started noticing strange weather patterns. Cold winds in the middle of summer, storms that appeared without warning, strange glowing clouds that seemed to move on their own. The scientists studying them said the air pressure and magnetic fields were being disturbed by something in orbit. Whatever the aliens were doing, it was affecting the planet's natural balance. But that wasn't the only thing changing. Animals began to act differently. Birds flew in strange circles and refused to land. Whales changed their migration routes. Even domestic pets seemed restless, barking or hiding for no reason. It was as if the entire planet could sense that something was coming. And then, one morning, something finally happened. At exactly 5:32 a.m., every electronic device on Earth flickered. Phones, radios, televisions, satellites all went dark for 20 seconds. When they came back online, a signal was heard around the globe. It wasn't music and it wasn't words, it was a voice. Not human, but calm, almost gentle. It said only this: "We did not come to harm, but we are not alone." The message repeated 3 times, then disappeared. For the next few hours, the world was silent. The blue glowing ship remained still, but the orange one began to move closer to Earth's atmosphere. Slowly, like a storm cloud sinking toward land, governments issued global alerts. Fighter jets took off trying to follow it, but every time they got close, their engines lost power. The alien craft continued its descent, unstoppable. In cities below, people watched with both fear and wonder. It didn't look like a weapon, it looked alive, like a giant breathing organism made of light. Some said it was beautiful. Others said it was terrifying, and then, without warning, the ship stopped just above the Pacific Ocean. It hovered there, motionless, for hours. That was when something new appeared. Out of the blue glowing craft came a smaller light, descending slowly like a falling star. It entered Earth's atmosphere and landed somewhere deep in the ocean near the same location. Satellites caught a brief glimpse of it before the image cut out. When contact was restored, both crafts had gone silent again. No signals, no movement, just silence. Theories spread faster than fire. Scientists thought it might have been a communication pod. Some believed it was a weapon. But one idea stood out among all others. Maybe it was an escape capsule. In the following days, several strange readings began to appear deep beneath the Pacific. It was as if something or someone was moving under the sea. Submarines were sent to investigate, but none returned with clear footage. Whatever it was, it could move faster than anything made by humans. Meanwhile, life on the surface began to shift. People were no longer just afraid, they were curious. Across different countries, citizens started forming groups that believed the aliens weren't enemies at all, but messengers. They said the blue glowing ship was here to warn Earth, and the orange one was the real danger. Others didn't believe that and said both sides were dangerous, and humanity should prepare for war. The world had never been this united and divided at the same time. Then one day, something extraordinary happened in a small coastal area in the Philippines. Fishermen reported seeing a strange figure washed up on shore. At first, they thought it was a person, but when they got closer, they noticed the body wasn't quite human. It had a faint glow beneath its skin, and its features looked both familiar and otherworldly. The local authorities arrived quickly and took the being away before anyone could take a clear photo. But the rumors spread instantly. Some said it was a survivor from the blue ship. Others claimed it came from the orange one. No one could prove anything. But deep within secret labs around the world, similar sightings started to surface. Strange individuals were found in remote places, looking human but showing signs of something different. Eyes that reflected light strangely, skin that healed unusually fast, and a strange energy that made electronic devices flicker nearby. The truth was beginning to unfold. Some of them had been here long before the ships came. The realization was both fascinating and terrifying. Humanity had never been alone. The refugees from the Galactic War had already blended into the human world, living quietly among ordinary people for decades. They weren't here to rule or to harm, they were hiding. And now the ones chasing them had finally found them. Governments tried to contain this truth, but it was too late. Too many people had seen too much. Social media exploded with theories, photos, and secret recordings. It didn't matter if half of it was fake, people believed it. For the first time, humans were forced to face a truth they had avoided for centuries. Earth was no longer just humanity's home. It was a refuge for others too. And that's when the real fear began. The orange ship suddenly started releasing strange bursts of light into the sky. They weren't attacks, but signals Some kind of scanning. The entire planet lit up on satellite screens like a grid, as if the ship was searching for something specific, or someone. Panic spread everywhere. Governments imposed curfews. Planes were grounded. People were told to stay indoors. No one knew what would happen next. But in the middle of all this fear, one thing became clear. The blue glowing ship wasn't responding. It had gone completely silent, almost as if it was waiting too. The world stood frozen for days. Every night the orange light grew brighter in the sky, glowing like a fiery sun that refused to set. Scientists warned that its energy waves were affecting Earth's magnetic field. Compasses stopped working. The northern lights appeared in countries that had never seen them before, and electricity began to fluctuate in strange patterns. And then, after almost 2 weeks of unbearable tension, the world saw something no one could explain. At exactly midnight, the clouds above the Pacific opened up like a curtain. A beam of light shot down from the blue ship, striking the ocean surface where the strange energy readings had been detected. The water erupted upward, glowing with electric blue light. Out of that light came dozens of smaller glowing shapes, moving fast and rising toward the sky. They looked like living creatures made of pure energy. The orange ship reacted immediately, glowing even brighter as if preparing for battle. Every radar in the world picked it up. Every satellite went live. People everywhere stared at their screens, breathless. The two ships faced each other again, this time not in silence but in the middle of a storm of light and thunder. But instead of firing weapons, something else happened. The orange ship released a massive pulse, a wave that spread across the sky like a ripple. It hit Earth's upper atmosphere, and for a brief moment the entire planet glowed. Every city, every sea, every mountain was bathed in strange light. When it faded, both ships were gone. Vanished. No explosion, no debris, nothing. Just silence. But the silence felt different this time. Heavier. Final. For days, people searched the skies, waiting for them to return. Governments sent satellites to scan the area, but the readings were strange. There was no trace of anything. The alien crafts, the energy signals, even the strange movements under the ocean, all gone. Yet deep beneath the waves, sensors detected one faint signal still pulsing, a heartbeat-like rhythm, slow but steady. The world didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The storm that had brushed past Earth had left something behind, something alive. And while people tried to go back to their normal lives, pretending that the worst was over, the truth was quietly growing, waiting for its time to reveal itself. Earth had survived the first contact. But peace had a price, because now humanity wasn't just being watched. It was part of the story. Weeks passed since the two alien ships vanished from the sky. Yet the world could not move on. People wanted to believe it was over, that whatever came from the stars had finally left. But deep down everyone knew something had changed. The air felt different. The nights were quieter but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that made people look over their shoulders, wondering if something unseen was still watching. Government said the situation was under control. News anchors smiled a little too hard on TV, saying Earth was safe again. But scientists knew better. Satellite readings showed faint energy waves still pulsing from the Pacific Ocean, exactly where the blue light had touched the water. Something was still there, something alive. At first, no one paid much attention. People were tired of being scared. They wanted to go back to their jobs, their families, their routines. The alien story became a kind of legend, something to talk about but not to truly believe. Children drew pictures of glowing ships at school. Adults shook their heads and said, "It's all in the past now." But late one night at a research station near the Pacific coast, a group of scientists noticed something strange on their monitors. The water temperature in the ocean's deepest point had risen sharply in just a few hours. That was impossible. Down there it was freezing cold and always stable. The readings looked like something massive was moving far below the surface. The next morning, coastal fishermen began reporting that the sea had gone quiet. No fish, no dolphins, not even birds near the water. The ocean felt empty, as if everything alive had moved away. At first, nobody connected it to the aliens, but soon more signs started appearing. A large storm formed over the Pacific without warning, one that didn't behave like a normal storm. It stayed in one place for days, spinning slowly, glowing faintly at night. Weather experts were baffled. The storm didn't move toward land. It just stayed there, pulsing like a living thing. While the world's attention turned back to the strange weather, something else was happening in secret. Across several countries, people began disappearing quietly, not in large numbers, but just enough to raise questions. A scientist in Chile vanished while studying ocean data. A deep-sea diver in Indonesia didn't return from a mission. In a few cities, people who had been connected to earlier alien research went missing without any explanation. The news didn't report much about it, but whispers spread. Some said the ones who disappeared were taken by the aliens. Others believed they had gone into hiding because they knew too much. Whatever the truth was, one thing became clear. Earth's story with the Galactic War wasn't over. It had just changed shape. Then one morning, a strange event shook the entire world. In a desert region, hundreds of miles from the sea, an object fell from the sky. It didn't explode or burn. It simply landed softly, leaving a shallow crater. Military forces surrounded the area within minutes. No one outside the operation saw what was inside, but rumors spread fast. People living nearby said they saw a glowing sphere the size of a small car, and inside it, a figure curled up in a fetal position. Within hours, secret labs across different countries began communicating. The same kind of object had been detected in at least 3 more places. One in Africa, one in Russia, and one near South America. Whatever they were, they had arrived quietly, without the chaos of the earlier ships. Inside those strange pods, scientists found something shocking. The beings looked almost human, but not entirely. Their skin had a soft glow beneath it like faint moonlight. Their breathing was shallow, almost silent. Some were awake. Others seemed to be sleeping. They didn't speak any known language, but they weren't hostile. They looked weak, as if they had escaped something terrible. And that's when the truth began to unfold. Through limited communication, using patterns of light and sound, scientists finally began to understand. These weren't new visitors. They were survivors. The same refugees who had been living secretly among humans for years had sent out a signal from Earth when they were discovered. The blue glowing ship had come to rescue them. But the orange ship, those were the hunters. The message, we did not come to harm. But we are not alone, now made sense. The refugees had been warning humanity that their enemies were coming. And now, even though the ships had disappeared, the hunters hadn't given up. The storm over the Pacific wasn't just a storm. It was a hiding place. Somewhere beneath that swirling mass of clouds and energy, something powerful was gathering strength. In hidden government meetings, world leaders faced a terrible decision. Should they hand over the alien refugees to protect Earth, or defend them and risk becoming part of the war? There was no easy answer. Some nations wanted to help the refugees, seeing them as victims. Others argued that humanity shouldn't fight a war that wasn't theirs. But before any decision could be made, another shock came. The strange energy pulses that scientists had been tracking suddenly grew stronger, 10 times stronger. Every compass and communication device near the Pacific went haywire. Satellites captured something enormous rising from beneath the ocean. It wasn't a ship this time. It looked like a massive structure, almost like a city made of light and metal breaking through the waves. People all over the world watched the footage live. It was breathtaking. Towers of glowing material stretched upward from the ocean, shimmering like crystal. It wasn't an invasion. It looked more like something waking up after a long sleep. And then a signal echoed across every radio and broadcast system again. A calm voice spoke in a language that no one could fully translate, but the emotion behind it was clear, pleading, desperate, urgent. Scientists working on the translation said it repeated one word many times. Home. The refugees weren't trying to take Earth. They were trying to rebuild something they had lost. Earth wasn't their battlefield, it was their last chance. But the moment that city rose from the sea, the storm changed. The calm blue glow that had surrounded the area darkened. The clouds thickened and turned orange-red. Satellites detected a massive object approaching again, this time much faster than before. The hunters were coming back. Governments across the world activated every possible defense system. Fighter jets, missiles, and warships moved into position. But deep down, everyone knew human technology was no match for something that could cross galaxies. Still, humanity had to try. In the following hours, strange things started happening on land. Those who were part of the hidden refugee group, living quietly among humans for years, began to gather. Some of them revealed themselves to trusted scientists, explaining that they could help. They had technology that could protect Earth, but it required human cooperation. For the first time, humans and aliens stood side by side, not as enemies, but as partners. They worked together to reactivate old technology that had been hidden on Earth long ago, something that the refugees had built to defend themselves before the war followed them here. As they worked, the skies above the Pacific began to glow again. The orange light returned, brighter than ever, spreading like fire through the clouds. The hunters had arrived, and they were no longer hiding. People everywhere watched in fear and awe as a huge shadow broke through the storm. It was one of the same orange ships, but much larger, stretching across the sky like a floating city. The air vibrated with a deep echoing hum that shook the ground. But then, something extraordinary happened. The ocean beneath the glowing alien city came alive. The refugee structure, the one that had risen from the sea, began to shine brighter, sending beams of light into the sky. The colors were not like any human had seen before, shifting between blue, silver, and gold. It wasn't a weapon. It was a shield. When the hunter ship released its first energy wave, it hit the barrier and spread across the sky like lightning. But it didn't break through. For the first time, humanity saw that Earth could fight back. Not with bombs, not with missiles, but with unity. All across the world, power grids that had failed suddenly came back online. Communications were restored. The entire planet seemed to come alive again, as if something deep beneath the Earth had awakened in response. The battle above the Pacific wasn't fought with violence. It was fought with light, energy, and will. The refugees' technology created a force field around the planet, blending with Earth's own natural magnetic energy. The hunter ship couldn't penetrate it. For hours it circled the planet, searching for a weakness but found none, and then, just as quickly as it had come, it vanished into space, leaving behind only silence and a sky full of glowing blue clouds. The world cheered. People cried in relief. For the first time, humans understood that their planet wasn't weak. It was alive, and it had become something greater. Earth wasn't just a home for one species anymore. It had become a sanctuary for life itself. But deep beneath the ocean, where the alien city now rested, a faint message pulsed once more. It wasn't in words this time, but every translator agreed on what it meant. This is only the beginning. After the battle over the Pacific, Earth had changed forever. The ocean still carried the faint glow from that night, like the planet was breathing light instead of air. People around the world celebrated, but there was also fear mixed with that joy. They had survived something bigger than any war in human history. But no one knew for how long. The hunters had left, yes, but they hadn't surrendered. In the weeks that followed, the skies remained calm. The alien city that had risen from the sea stayed floating near the horizon, motionless, its surface reflecting the sun like a mirror. No one dared to go near it, yet every country sent ships and drones to study it from afar. The scientists called it the Guardian, others called it the Light City. Some even prayed to it, believing it was a divine sign that Earth was protected now. But deep inside that glowing city, something else was happening. The refugees, the ones who had been hiding among humans for years, were now trying to repair the damage their enemies had caused. Their energy was fading fast. They were not built to survive in Earth's environment for long. They needed to find a way to merge their technology with Earth's systems, to make both species stronger together. A small group of humans had been chosen to help. They weren't soldiers or politicians. They were scientists, engineers, and ordinary people who had shown courage during the crisis. They worked day and night inside secret labs near the coast, trying to understand how the alien energy worked. It wasn't like anything on Earth, it was alive. It responded to emotion, to trust, even to hope. It wasn't just a machine. It was something spiritual in its own way. One night, while testing the energy systems, the lights in the lab flickered. A faint voice echoed from the alien core they were studying. No one could understand the words, but they all felt the emotion: sadness, longing, and fear. One of the scientists whispered, "It's remembering." They realized the core was not just a power source. It was a memory, holding the pain of a lost world. Meanwhile, around the world, strange things began to happen. People started dreaming of places they had never seen. Vast landscapes with twin suns, cities made of crystal, skies filled with silver birds. At first it was dismissed as imagination. But soon too many people reported the same dreams. It was like the alien memories were spreading through human minds, connecting both worlds. Some called it a miracle. Others called it dangerous. Governments grew uneasy. They feared that the aliens were slowly changing humans, turning them into something else. Secret meetings were held again. Some leaders wanted to destroy the alien city before it was too late. Others warned that doing so could endanger the whole planet. But while the world argued, the true danger was quietly returning from the stars. Far beyond the solar system, the hunters had regrouped. They had failed to capture the refugees on Earth, and their pride wouldn't allow them to stop. They saw Earth as a threat now, a planet that dared to stand against them. And so they began building something massive, something that could wipe out an entire world. On Earth, signs of their approach began to appear weeks later. The moon's orbit shifted slightly. Satellites lost signals for minutes at a time, and small meteors began to fall, each one carrying traces of alien metal. The refugees sensed it first. Their city's lights dimmed as if bracing for another attack. The humans working with them grew restless. They didn't have the power to face another wave of war. The shield that had protected Earth before was weak now. It had used almost all its energy to repel the first attack. If the hunters returned in full force, there would be no second chance. But one of the refugees, a quiet, gentle being who had been among humans the longest, came forward with a solution. He explained that Earth itself could be the key. The planet was alive, full of natural energy that the hunters had underestimated. If humans and refugees worked together, they could awaken the Earth's hidden power, the same energy that had once created the shield. The scientists were confused. "How can a planet fight?" one of them asked. The alien smiled faintly, touching the ground. "It already did," he said. "It's waiting to do it again." The plan was dangerous, almost impossible. They needed to connect the alien city's energy core directly to the planet's magnetic field. That meant activating points of energy all around the world. Mountains, oceans, deserts, places where Earth's natural pulse was strongest. Humans had never done anything like it before. One wrong move could destroy the entire planet. But they had no other choice. And so quietly a new mission began. Teams were sent to key points around the globe, carrying small alien devices that pulsed with blue light. These devices had to be placed deep within the Earth to connect with its energy flow. Some were hidden in volcanoes, others beneath oceans, others in ancient forests where the Earth's heartbeat was strong. The media had no idea what was happening. The world seemed calm on the surface. People went to work, children played, and the stars looked peaceful. But behind that calm, a handful of people were racing against time to save humanity. During those tense days, strange events continued to occur. Plants began glowing faintly at night in certain regions. Animals acted differently, more alert, as if sensing something coming. And in the skies, people saw faint patterns of light, like constellations shifting slowly into symbols no one could understand. Then, it began. The sky over the Pacific darkened again, not with clouds, but with shadow. The hunters had arrived, and this time, their fleet was larger than anything Earth had ever seen. Dozens of ships formed a circle in orbit, blocking sunlight over half the ocean. They didn't speak or send a message. They were not here to negotiate. Panic spread across the world. Governments urged people to stay calm, but fear was everywhere. The alien city on the ocean glowed brighter, signaling that the shield activation had begun. Deep underground, the energy points placed by the human teams started to connect. Earth began to hum, a low, deep vibration that shook buildings and stirred the air. The hunters struck first. Bolts of orange light shot down from the sky, hitting the ocean, shaking the waves. The shield flared, but it was weak. The alien city's lights flickered. For a moment, it seemed like everything would collapse. But then something incredible happened. The energy from Earth's core responded. The ground beneath mountains began to glow faintly. Rivers shimmered like molten silver. The sky above deserts turned blue even at night. The planet was awakening. The devices humans had planted started to synchronize, sending waves of energy toward the ocean. The people of Earth, unaware of the details, felt it in their hearts. Many reported a sudden feeling of warmth, as if the air itself was alive. Others said they heard a faint sound, a hum that came from the ground like a heartbeat. The alien city received the energy, and its core pulsed brighter than ever before. The shield reformed, not just around the city, but around the entire planet. This time it wasn't blue, it was silver and gold, flickering like fire. The hunters tried again, releasing their most powerful blasts, but the energy waves bounced off harmlessly, scattering into the stars. From every corner of the world, people watched the sky glow with light. It wasn't just a battle anymore, it was a message. Earth was no longer a silent observer in the galaxy. It was alive, united, and strong. But amid that victory, the refugees knew something the humans didn't. They had succeeded in protecting Earth, yes, but awakening the planet's energy had consequences. The balance of the galaxy had shifted. Other civilizations would sense what had happened. Earth had revealed itself, and now countless eyes across the universe would turn toward it. In the alien city, the leader of the refugees looked at the horizon where the sun was rising. His voice was soft but heavy with meaning. "The hunters are gone," he said, "but others will come. Earth has joined the story now." The humans beside him looked out at the glowing ocean. For the first time, they felt proud but also humbled. They had defended their home not with weapons, but with courage and unity. They had learned that the greatest strength wasn't in machines or power, but in the will to protect each other. And as the light from the shield began to fade, leaving only a calm blue sky behind, people around the world stood quietly under the sun, realizing something beautiful. Earth had always been part of the universe's story. It just took a war from the stars to remind everyone of that truth. But deep under the ocean, inside the glowing alien city, a soft pulse continued, steady, quiet, waiting. It was the same signal that had once called for help across the stars. Now it carried a new message. It said, "We are home." Months passed after the second great encounter, and Earth had finally begun to heal. The skies were clear again, the oceans calm, and the strange lights that once painted the night had slowly faded. But deep inside, everyone knew the world would never be the same. Humanity had seen too much, things beyond imagination. They had looked into the universe and realized how small, yet how important they were. The alien city, the one people called the Light City, still floated on the ocean like a silent guardian. It no longer glowed as brightly as before, but every now and then its walls shimmered softly, like a heart still beating. Scientists said it was in rest mode, recharging its energy, but others believed it was simply listening, watching over Earth to make sure peace remained. People all over the world had mixed feelings. Some felt grateful, some still feared what had happened, and some believed that the aliens had brought both danger and destiny to humankind. But one thing was clear: humans and the alien refugees were now connected forever. They were no longer strangers from different worlds. They had shared pain, fear, and victory together. Life began returning to normal, or at least as normal as it could. Children went back to school. Factories reopened. Farmers worked their fields again. But new technology had started appearing everywhere. Machines that could clean pollution using light, devices that could store energy without wires, and medical tools that could heal wounds in seconds. They were gifts from the refugees, left behind for humanity as a thank you for their help. However, with every new discovery, new questions arose. Who were the hunters really? Why did they want to destroy the refugees so badly? And what kind of power had Earth awakened that night when the shield covered the planet? Some scientists warned that humanity had only scratched the surface. They said that the planet's pulse, the energy that saved everyone, was still active and growing stronger. One morning, strange signals began to appear again in global communication systems. At first, people thought it was another attack, but the pattern wasn't hostile. It was calm and rhythmic like a heartbeat. The scientists studied it for weeks before realizing the truth. The signal wasn't coming from space, it was coming from Earth itself. The planet was talking. No one could explain how, but somehow, the energy deep within Earth had started communicating. It didn't use words, but waves and patterns, as if responding to the actions of those who lived on its surface. It was almost like Earth had finally woken up. At first, this frightened people. The idea that the planet itself was aware felt too strange. But as time passed, people began to notice positive changes. The weather became more balanced. Storms calmed faster. Crops grew stronger. Even animals began returning to places they had left years ago. It was as if Earth was healing itself and everyone living on it, but not everything was peaceful. In hidden corners of the world, certain powerful groups started to worry. They feared that if the refugees' technology continued spreading, human governments would lose control. Some military leaders wanted to seize the alien city and study it for weapons. Others warned that such greed could destroy everything that had been saved. A secret mission was planned. Late at night, under the cover of darkness, a group of armed drones and submarines approached the alien city. Their goal was to enter the structure and take control of its power source. They believed it was the key to ultimate dominance, a weapon that could rule not just Earth but the stars. But the moment they reached the glowing walls, the water around them began to ripple. The city came alive again, brighter than ever before. It didn't attack. It didn't harm them. Instead, it released a wave of light that made every drone and machine shut down instantly. Cameras went black. Engines stopped. The soldiers inside the submarines reported hearing a single word echo in their minds: enough. The next morning, every ship that had been part of the mission was found floating quietly on the water's surface, unharmed but empty. The soldiers were gone. No one knew what happened to them. Some said the city sent them back to the stars. Others believed it had absorbed them into itself. Whatever the truth, the message was clear. Earth's new guardian would not allow another war, not even among humans. After that incident, the world finally accepted peace. Countries began working together like never before. There were no more secrets about the alien technology. It was shared freely among nations to help everyone. Energy shortages ended. Hunger began to fade. Diseases that once seemed unstoppable were cured. Humanity had been forced to unite by fear, but they remained united through hope. The refugees who stayed behind slowly started to blend with human life. Some took on human forms completely, living quietly among people, helping where they could. They never asked for anything in return. They believed this planet had given them something more valuable than power: home. And though most of humanity never saw them again, everyone knew they were still there, watching, guiding, protecting in silence. Years passed, and children who had once hidden under their beds during the battles grew up listening to stories about those days. They didn't speak of aliens as monsters or enemies anymore. They spoke of them as friends who helped save the world. Schools even began teaching about the day Earth awakened, a historic moment when humans realized they were not alone, and that they were stronger together. But deep beneath the ocean, in the heart of the alien city, a change was happening once again. The core that had once glowed with blue light now pulsed with soft silver energy. It was connecting with the planet more deeply, merging completely. For the first time, the city was no longer alien. It had become part of Earth itself. And somewhere in that glowing heart, a faint voice whispered again, though no human could hear it. The war has ended, but the story continues. Because even though the hunters had vanished, somewhere out there in the dark corners of the galaxy, word of Earth's new power was spreading. Other civilizations had heard of the small blue planet that survived the Galactic War, the one that stood against impossible odds. Some saw it as a miracle, others saw it as a threat, but on Earth life continued. People had learned not to live in fear of the unknown. They understood now that the universe wasn't meant to be conquered, it was meant to be shared. One night, as the stars shone brighter than usual, a little boy stood on a hill by the ocean. He looked at the glowing horizon where the alien city once stood and whispered, "Are you still there?" For a moment the sea shimmered faintly, as if answering him, and then he smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, beyond the stars, beyond everything, someone was smiling back. The next morning, people all around the world woke up to a strange sight. The alien city was gone. The spot where it had floated for years was now calm and empty. Some said it had returned to the stars. Others believed it had sunk into the ocean to sleep again. But just before it vanished, satellites recorded something extraordinary. A massive wave of light spreading from that location, moving outward into space, carrying with it a final message. It was a combination of alien and human code, and it took scientists weeks to decode it. When they finally did, the message was simple: "Thank you. Protect this world. It is yours now," and that's how it ended, not with war or destruction, but with peace. Humanity had faced something far beyond their understanding and had come out wiser, kinder, and more united. Generations later, when people looked up at the stars, they no longer felt small or afraid. They felt connected. because they knew that somewhere among the countless worlds, there were others who remembered Earth, the planet that once stayed out of the galactic war until it had no choice but to rise, fight and prove that even the smallest world could shine the brightest. And so, the legend of Earth spread across the galaxy, a story not of conquest but of courage. A story about a planet that became a home not just for one kind of life, but for all who needed it. The stars above no longer looked distant after that. They looked like friends. And in the quiet of the night, when the wind brushed softly against the waves, it almost felt like the planet itself was whispering back to its people, "We are not alone. We never were."